now. Lauren Taylor was just 16 when she was raped by a Metropolitan police officer. Now, 13 years on, and after 3 trials, she finally has justice. In August 2010, Lauren went on a date with police officer Adam Provan. He promised her a trip to the cinema, but said he wanted to go for a walk first. Provan took Lauren to Woodland and raped her. He then went on to commit a second attack on her that same evening.
Provan was first put on trial in April 2018, but it ended with a hung jury. And in November 2018, he went on trial for a second time, where he was convicted of the offences against Lauren and jailed for 9 years. He was also sacked from the Metropolitan Police in 2019.
But that conviction was later overturned on appeal and Provan was released from prison. During that second trial, another woman had listened to Lauren's victim impact statement. She was a fellow Met police officer and Provan had raped her too. In June, he was convicted for the second time and sentenced to 16 years for a series of rape offences against the 2 women.
Now, Lauren didn't have to do this, but she's waived her right to anonymity to share her story with us today in hope to inspire others who may have been through a similar experience to speak out and to receive help. And she joins us now. And
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I want to start with that. You know, legally, you don't have to be in that chair.
Yeah.
You could be anonymous. Why are you doing this? Help us understand. Help those out there understand what, insofar as possible, your mission is.
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like reaching out to people, showing who I am, you know, it makes me a person. I'm no one special, I'm just a normal person. I've had an awful experience and I've fought really hard and long for justice. And I feel like that would speak volumes, you know, my determination to keep going. When I've been knocked down so many times, you know, I've had unthinkable things happen during these 7 years, with the conviction being quashed and having to keep going. And I feel like that's going to really relate to people and hopefully help people be able to share their story. You know, I can't change what happened to me, but I might be able to change how someone else comes forward or someone does something about what happened to them. And that's why I'm here today.
I feel so sorry for you for the fact that you went through this awful thing and then that whole quest to get justice has taken such a long time. It's been so long and drawn out for you, hasn't it? How has it felt? Because it sort of seems like, you know, you've gone through 2 ordeals in a sense, haven't you?
Yeah, it has been... It's taken its toll, you know. I've been knocked down so many times. I've been hit rock bottom and I wondered every day, how am I going to get through this? How am I going to, you know, survive another day? But I am a survivor. I'm not a victim of rape anymore. I have survived those days where I thought I would never be able to get out of bed and continue on. And I feel like my truth, speaking the truth, is the only thing that kept me going. And that's all I can do, is keep telling my truth.
What does it do to you to know that because of your courage and your victim impact statement, another person came forward who was a fellow police officer and she, alongside you, gave evidence against the man that was ultimately imprisoned for rape?
I mean, it does mean the world to me that I've managed to help her. I'm really, really proud of her. And, you know, I'm glad that I was the person that she felt, well, finally I can talk. I gave her the voice that she needed and I want to be the voice for others.
Because your bravery in speaking out about this, in reporting this, meant that then, because he was convicted, others weren't attacked. We know that the judge in your case, though, had said he was troubled by the way complaints had been handled, that actually reports that were made hadn't been looked into sufficiently in the early days, in the years preceding what happened to you. And he might have been stopped sooner, is the frustrating thing, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, I didn't know half of that stuff until it came out as well. As a victim of crime, you don't get to know, you know, what else has happened. So to find out that there have been allegations for years and, you know, they haven't looked into this person, even internally, rather than an investigation, like looked into him as a police officer and thought, is he safe to be on the street?
Just to be clear, the Met Police, I mean, you know, there are over, I think, about 1,500 police officers currently who are accused of domestic violence and rape, who are still serving officers.
Yeah, I mean, it's appalling and they really need to change the way they look at these people.
Can I ask you a question? Because, you know, sometimes people don't really ask a victim, excuse me, in your case, as it should be, a survivor, what it's like to go through that court experience. You know, it takes on average over 2 years before somebody comes to court. In your case, you went back 3 times. What does that do to you?
It's definitely broken me as a person, I feel. Being in that courtroom alone is one of the most terrifying things that I've ever done. You're so alone, you're scared for your life, I suppose, because you have to stand there and you have to defend your truth till the end, you know. You're constantly questioned. I felt like a broken person. I was a shell of who I am in that courtroom, and I'll be haunted forever by my experience of court.
Do you think that's the reason why, you know, people, other women, some men, hear about this? And do you know that around 70% of people who start a rape allegation just stop? We've got less than 2% of people who make a rape allegation receive any kind of justice. You know, as a survivor, how does that feel? What should we understand about your experience and the countless others out there who are victims who could be survivors like you?
I mean, it's awful to think that someone would come forward and they felt brave enough to speak and then they decided actually it's not for them. And all I kept telling myself that going to this trial was going to be the last time I ever have to do this. This is the last jump I have to make before it's over, and hopefully I do get my justice. And it is the most terrifying thing that's ever happened. But I'm really glad that I managed to push through that and no one broke me. I was broken, but they didn't break me. And yeah, I feel like something needs to change. The way victims are treated, it is awful in that courtroom.
And how has it shaken your trust in the police? Because I know from what you'd said, you couldn't believe that he was a police officer, that someone in that position could have done this. And it must have been very hard for you to go to the police to report this.
Yeah, it was hard. And I think at the time, I generally didn't think he was a police officer. He said he was, but then he used a different name and age, and I just assumed that he just made it up. So when I went to the police, I felt like I could trust them. When I found out he was actually a police officer, I was a bit like, how am I meant to trust these people to investigate this crime when someone who works for them has done this to me? How do I know that, you know, they're going to help me and protect me? But over time, I've managed, the people that I've had around me, the Met police officers that I've dealt with have been nothing but supportive, positive, and I've had a really good experience.
And that's an important thing too. You know, we hear about things when they go wrong, and you've had the same counsel, the same prosecution team alongside you. You've got your angel wings on. You talk about being a survivor. You know, so few people report this offence because they hear stories like yours, and it is extremely difficult, to say the very least. I don't have that experience. What's your message to them? Somebody out there today that might be sitting there thinking, you know, this happened to me. I should report this offence. Lauren, you've been through it in the most extreme way. It took you 3 trials. What would you say to them?
I'd say do it. I'd say, you know, your truth is your power. And that's all I needed to keep telling myself, is that I know the truth. Doesn't matter what anyone else tries to do to break me. Doesn't matter what he says. Doesn't matter what, you know, anyone in that courtroom says. I know exactly what he done to me. And as much as that whole experience was terrifying and you know, it was relentless and I was scared to death, I just looked that jury in the eyes and I just told them my truth, and I felt I connected with the jury because they could relate to me. I'm just a person that's been through horrific experience.
Well, I'd like to congratulate you. It's the wrong word. I want to thank you for your courage coming today.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It means a great deal.
Well done for your bravery. Thanks so much for coming in to join us this morning, Lauren. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Now, if you have been affected by any of the issues we've been discussing, you can find advice and support at itv.com/helplines.